Welcome to a new deep dive. Today we're diving into a fascinating unfolding story from Southeast Asia. There's this border conflict that has suddenly erupted between Cambodia and Thailand. But this isn't just about, military might. It's really a deep exploration into a nation's internal politics, its long-held historical grievances, and some surprising power dynamics. We're going to try and untangle these intense recent clashes, figure out why Cambodia, which seems like the weaker nation on paper, is taking such an incredibly firm stance.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here is how deeply a nation's own domestic issues and its historical memory can shape its international actions, even when, it's facing a vastly superior power. We'll connect those threads, and then for a bit of a lighter but I think equally insightful turn, we'll look at the unexpected resilience of a global giant and a surprisingly tiny product, the humble zipper.
Okay, let's begin with the immediate spark. What kicked this specific conflict off? So in late July, Thailand accused Cambodian troops of secretly laying landmines in Thai territory. They claimed 2 Thai patrol units actually hit these minefields. 2 soldiers were severely injured, had to undergo amputations, apparently. Cambodia, though, quickly denied it, called the accusation slander, and even proposed international arbitration to sort of clear its name.
Right. But then just days later, July 24th, the situation really escalated dramatically. Thailand's army reported Cambodian forces using drones for reconnaissance near the Tam Wan Tam temple area, which is under Thai control. And then they said Cambodia fired rockets. Thailand immediately responded with airstrikes. We're talking 6 fighter jets hitting Cambodian military targets across the border. Cambodia, of course, claimed Thailand fired first. They insisted their actions were purely defensive. But from that day on, intense localized fighting erupted along dozens of kilometers of their shared border mountains, involving tanks, cluster bombs.
Heavy artillery?
Cluster bombs.
Wow.
And the human cost it really is. Reports indicate over 80 casualties, military and civilian, in just the first 3 days.
And 300,000 civilians forced to evacuate. That's huge.
A staggering number. And artillery fire even crossed into Laos, another neighbor.
So this is the worst clash between them since... When was it? 2011?
That's right, 2011. And Thailand's acting prime minister even publicly suggested it could escalate, potentially into a full-scale war.
So what's the international reaction been like? Are others getting involved?
Well, you saw the usual calls for restraint. ASEAN, China, the U.S., the UN, they all urged dialogue immediately. China's foreign minister, for instance, offered a constructive role, as a mutual friend to de-escalate things. And the UN Security Council held an emergency meeting.
But Thailand?
Thailand has consistently insisted on bilateral talks only, explicitly rejecting any third-party mediation. They even recalled their ambassador from Cambodia and expelled Cambodia's ambassador.
That downgrades diplomatic ties to the lowest level, doesn't it?
Precisely. Yeah. Not exactly a sign they're looking for calm negotiations. And adding to the unpredictability, Thailand's government actually handed over border management to its army back on June 7th. Which gives the military significant, almost autonomous control over how things play out on the ground.
Okay, but here's the thing that really strikes me. The sheer imbalance of power. Cambodia, by all conventional measures, it's the much weaker nation. It's significantly smaller than Thailand. Its GDP is far lower. And Thailand's defense budget is, several times larger, with modern equipment versus Cambodia's older stuff.
Yeah, 4.4 times larger, roughly. Big difference in capability.
So it's genuinely puzzling. Why are they pushing back so hard? Why this incredibly tough stance against a superior military and economy? What does this tell us about Cambodia?
Well, the answer, I think, lies deep in Cambodia's internal political and economic landscape. You have to imagine a country where, the very fabric of society, its roads, schools, economy, even its population, had to be literally rebuilt from scratch. After decades of just brutal war and chaos.
Yeah.
That was Cambodia in the 1990s. And out of those ruins, a new political order was forged, centered around strongman politics, led for decades by Hun Sen. Someone described him as the one modern politician in a landscape of just utter devastation.
Right, Hun Sen. So how did he manage it? How did he create such a stable autocracy and hang on to power for so long, especially coming out of those conditions?
Well, comparative political science gives us some clues. Strongman leaders like Hun Sen, they generally need 2 crucial things to stay in power long term. First, you need a powerful inner circle, like a tight-knit network of elites who control the nation's political, business, security assets. Think of them as the power brokers, ensuring loyalty, preventing internal challenges. Your electoral college, so to speak.
Yeah.
Second, you absolutely have to deliver tangible economic performance. You need to share the benefits of development with the general population. That's how you build legitimacy. It's this balancing act, keeping the elite happy but also giving enough to the broader masses.
And how did Cambodia manage that economic growth piece, given where they started in the 90s, broken infrastructure, low education?
They developed this really interesting model. A scholar named Tim Kelsall calls it mixed growth. It's this unique blend of globalization on one hand and local rent-seeking on the other.
Okay, explain that. Globalization first.
Right. So they shrewdly focused on 3 industries that could earn foreign exchange: textile processing, agricultural processing, and tourism. Take textiles. Huge employer, over 700,000 people, exports billions, mostly to the U.S. and Europe. But what's interesting is that most of these companies are foreign-owned. And the foreign investors often shoulder the burden of building factories, setting up supply chains, training workers, which cut Cambodia's initial costs significantly.
Ah, okay. Smart. And tourism followed a similar path.
Pretty much. Government encouraged foreign investment in hotels, resorts, that sort of thing.
Got it. So that's the globalization part. But the local rent-seeking bit, that sounds a bit different. Almost like policy itself became a commodity. How did that help stability?
Yeah, that's where the political engineering really comes in. Think of rent-seeking this way. The government had very limited cash for public services early on. So they essentially treated policymaking itself as a kind of business opportunity. Instead of relying only on taxes, they'd grant exclusive licenses, operating rights, say, to run a telecom company or develop a big real estate project or operate a casino.
To powerful individuals.
Exactly. To powerful individuals or elite families. And in return, these elites would share a slice of their profits with the ruling People's Party and its leaders, often through direct shares in the companies. And this expanded that electoral college we talked about. It wasn't just politicians and technocrats anymore. It included influential merchants, foreign investors, even some royal family members. Ultimately, over 100 core families, really.
Yeah.
And these families then coordinated their interests, formed alliances, all to uphold the People's Party's rule because their own wealth and power were directly tied to keeping this system stable.
And the military had a big role in this patronage network too, didn't they? I read something astonishing about the number of generals.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's quite something. The Royal Cambodian Army has, just 124,000 personnel, but it boasts over 3,000 generals.
3,000?
Yes. And many of these high-ranking military officers are directly involved in lucrative private businesses, timber processing, commercial real estate, using their positions to acquire personal wealth. It's a really powerful example of how deep that patronage network runs.
So putting it all together, what's the verdict on this mixed growth model? Was it ultimately successful for Cambodia?
Well, the result was undeniably impressive economic growth, at least for a long stretch, averaging nearly 8% annually from 1994 to 2019. That led to real improvements. Life expectancy went up, literacy rates improved, basic infrastructure got better. Cambodia crossed the middle-income threshold.
But there are downsides.
Definitely. Corruption remains rampant. There's a huge disparity between urban and rural living standards, and serious issues like human trafficking and these scam operations have become unfortunately common. Plus, politically, by 2017, the last major opposition party was effectively banned. So the ruling People's Party solidified its control. There are virtually no significant external political challenges left.
Okay, this brings us to a really crucial point. Succession. When a long-reigning strongman like Hun Sen steps aside, what happens to that whole carefully built system? He officially stepped down in 2023, passed the premiership to his son, Hun Manet. How did they manage that transition without, blowing things up?
It's fascinating how Hun Sen orchestrated it, really trying to mitigate the risks. He himself moved to become the Senate chair, so he's still providing strategic guidance from behind the scenes.
Right, still influential.
Very much so. While his son, Hun Manet, took over as prime minister. But crucially, it wasn't just them. The old guard of the People's Party, the veteran leaders, also largely transitioned out of their formal government positions. But, and this is key, their family members often inherited their important roles within that electoral college, within the power network. So while the faces at the very top changed, the core families and their networks remained stable. It prevented that kind of elite fragmentation that can often destabilize authoritarian regimes during succession.
And Hun Manet himself. He's got an interesting background. First Cambodian graduate of West Point, 4-star general, economics PhD.
That's right. He even participated in negotiations during the 2008 Thai-Cambodian border friction.
So how might this current border conflict play into his new leadership, especially given that background?
Well, the conflict might indeed serve a critical political purpose right now. It could be about bolstering Hun Mane's image during this leadership transition phase. A strong showing on the border, demonstrating national resolve, that would significantly enhance his prestige and the prestige of the new generation of the People's Party elite, both among the population and within that crucial electoral college.
Makes sense.
His military background, his economics PhD, his previous experience with border issues, it positions him well to rally support. And with Hun Sen still offering strategic guidance, you can see how this becomes a kind of calculated move. Solidify the new administration's legitimacy, demonstrate strength.
But beyond the immediate politics, these historical grievances you mentioned, they seem incredibly deep. Cambodia's relationship with Thailand and Vietnam.
Oh, absolutely. They run very deep. Historians point out that ever since the Khmer Kingdom started declining back in the 18th century, both Vietnam and Thailand actively sought to control its remaining territories. Before French colonization, both neighbors actually forced Cambodia to become their vassal state. And modern Thai-Cambodian relations, particularly, have been marked by what one historian called Bangkok's refusal to consider Cambodia a truly sovereign state.
Yeah.
Now, from Thailand's perspective, today's border disputes are often seen as a legacy of early 20th century French colonial aggression against them. But Cambodians remember the 19th century differently, as a period of immense loss. They were forced to cede huge territories, like the Mekong Delta to Vietnam, and lost 3 western provinces to Thailand. In Cambodian politics today, even accusing someone of being pro-Vietnamese or pro-Thai is a really severe charge. It highlights this deep-seated historical trauma.
And that historical animosity, it's not just abstract history, right? It's boiled over before. You mentioned the 2003 anti-Thai riots, triggered by something about Angkor Wat.
Yes, that incident vividly illustrated the underlying resentment. A Cambodian newspaper published a false report claiming a Thai actress had provoked Cambodians by saying, Angkor Wat belongs to Thailand, and it was stolen by Cambodians.
Wow, that's inflammatory.
Hugely inflammatory. It hit a deep nerve, especially since Angkor Wat, the ancient capital, was actually sacked by Thailand's Ayutthaya kingdom back in the 15th century. That's an historical indignity Cambodians remember vividly. So enraged Cambodians didn't even bother to verify the story. They just poured onto the streets in Phnom Penh. They set fire to the Thai embassy, attacked dozens of Thai businesses. It showed just how volatile that anti-Thai sentiment simmering beneath the surface really is.
And then there's the more recent issue, the offshore oil field discovered back in 2006. Sounds like a huge source of friction.
It really is. Imagine finding a resource that could potentially double your nation's annual budget overnight. An offshore oil and gas field discovered by Chevron in 2006, estimated to hold at least 700 million barrels of crude, could generate maybe $1 billion annually for Cambodia.
And Cambodia's budget back then was only
just over $500 million. So you can imagine the Hun Sen government was thrilled. They even started drafting plans for how to use this massive energy wealth. But Thailand immediately objected, claimed the field was within their exclusive economic zone, basically asserted Cambodia couldn't sign development contracts without their permission.
And nearly 2 decades later,
still stalled. Development hasn't happened. And that creates significant ongoing friction, despite the immense potential benefits for Cambodia.
So you have this situation, impressive economic ties, like $7.8 billion in trade, over 2 million Thai tourists visiting Cambodia each year. But underneath, this deep mistrust lingers, fueling these conflicts.
Yes, exactly. Thai leaders have openly accused Cambodian-based criminal groups of threatening their national security. They've even suggested future restrictions on third-country tourists entering Thailand via Cambodia, which is clearly a potential negative for Cambodia's vital tourism industry.
Right.
Yet these tensions also offer political capital for Cambodia's leadership, especially during a transition like this. And with Thailand currently facing some economic fragility, a full-scale war seems unlikely. Most analysts think that. So instead, these controlled skirmishes, they serve symbolic and strategic purposes for Cambodia's consolidating leadership under Hun Manet, gaining face, looking strong against a long-standing rival like Thailand. That could significantly boost the new prime minister's prestige.
Interesting. Even external attempts at intervention seem difficult. Didn't former President Trump claim he'd secured a ceasefire recently?
He did. On July 26, there was a claim he secured a ceasefire, threatening tariffs if it was ignored. But reports indicated fighting continued the very next day, which just underscores, I think, the conflict's complexity and the often fragile nature of these kinds of external interventions. The local dynamics are really powerful.
Okay, so we've really dug into how conflict can be fueled by these deep historical roots and intricate internal power plays. But now let's pivot to something that at first glance seems completely disconnected from geopolitics, yet reveals another surprising aspect of our interconnected world: the humble zipper. Our lighter story today introduces you to the global zipper giant, YKK.
Yeah, YKK. What's truly fascinating here is just their incredible scale and resilience. They operate in 70 countries, over 500 factories worldwide, and they control an astounding 45% of the entire global zipper market, earning $6.9 billion in the 2024 fiscal year.
45%. Just for zippers.
Mostly zippers, yeah. But they're actually more than just zippers. YKK is also a major metal processing company, a building material supplier, even a medical equipment manufacturer. Their precision-made components power everything from high fashion to hospital machinery.
It's kind of incredible, isn't it, how a company focused on such a small, ubiquitous component can navigate all the turbulence of global trade wars and geopolitical shifts, seemingly unfazed. How do they manage that?
Their strategy is remarkably adaptive. They talk about a cycle of good. Basically, if demand for garment orders drops, say in China because of trade wars or shifts in manufacturing, YKK simply sees demand rise in places like Bangladesh or Vietnam, where production often shifts to.
So they just follow the business.
Exactly. Their profit just kind of moves across their vast global network of subsidiaries. There's often no significant overall decline for them. And YKK's U.S. division has even explored ways to profit from these disruptions. For instance, if high tariffs make imported brass expensive for other companies, YKK, which has contracts with local U.S. copper mines, could potentially step in as a middleman, resell raw brass, earn an extra profit.
Clever.
It really showcases their ability to leverage their integrated, distributed supply chain for strategic advantage, turning trade challenges into potential new revenue streams by being flexible where others might be rigid.
So what does this tell us then about global supply chains and our increasingly interconnected world?
Well, it raises this important question about the fundamental interconnectedness of the world economy, doesn't it? I mean, YKK still faces concerns. They source certain key machine parts from China. The ambiguous nature of auto tariffs can affect their complex supply chains. Just imagine, metal for car seat zippers might come from Indonesia or Brazil.
Okay.
Then be processed in Mexico or Canada. And then the seats themselves are manufactured in China, leading to multiple border crossings for just one component.
Wow, yeah. Complex.
Very. But their adaptability shows that even the smallest, most common products are tied into these vast, resilient global systems. The sheer complexity means that a country like the U.S. simply cannot onshore all industrial production. It's just not feasible. YKK's experience really highlights how global manufacturing chains are constantly adapting, finding ways to circumvent or absorb challenges. It demonstrates their inherent flexibility and surprising robustness.
And that wraps up today's deep dive. We've seen how deep historical roots and intricate internal political dynamics can fuel international conflict, even between seemingly mismatched opponents like Cambodia and Thailand, creating these ongoing strategic skirmishes. And how, on a completely different scale, the humble zipper reveals the incredible complexity and, surprising resilience of our interconnected global economy, constantly adapting to trade wars and shifting landscapes.
So what stands out to you? Maybe how those long-standing grievances or these critical internal political transitions really shape a nation's foreign policy decisions. Its willingness maybe to confront a stronger opponent, or, on the other hand, how even the most ubiquitous product, things you might take for granted every day, rely on this vast global network, a network that's constantly adapting, making it surprisingly difficult to just unravel or simplify.
Lots to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into these fascinating insights.
Until next time, stay informed and stay curious.